Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we continue our TM Soup to Nut series and look at a new topic, and that is charge calculation. To be more specific, we will look at one specific method of charging for freight that is widely accepted as standard in the industry. That method of charging for freight relies on the use of what is called the chargeable weight of the cargo. Contrary to what you might think, the actual weight of the product that you are shipping is not always the weight that is actually used to estimate the cost of shipping that product. Hence, the use of chargeable weight. The chargeable weight, in fact, is the actual gross weight or the volumetric weight of the shipment, whichever is the greater. Typically, large items with low density or light overall weight take up more space on a transportation resource than a small, heavy item. That's why the carriers will charge according to chargeable weight. Let's take an example where we are shipping a toy teddy bear that we are going to ship in a box that has an equal length of 100 centimeters for the width, the depth and the height. The combined weight of the box with the teddy bear and some filling material is going to be about 8 kilograms. That will be the gross weight. However, if we look at the dimensions of the box and based on its dimensions, the calculated volumetric weight will be 200 kilos. We get to that by multiplying the depth by the width by the height, which gives us a volume of 1 cubic meter. Then we divide that by a dimensional weight factor of 5,000 cubic centimeters, which gives us 200 kilos. This dimensional factor of 5,000 will apply for road and transport, and usually 6,000 is used for air transportation. Most, if not all, carriers will have some sort of online calculator that allows you to assess the greater of the gross weight or the volumetric weight for a parcel you are looking to ship. We can check one such calculator to verify the math on our teddy bear example. So if we now enter the dimensions as we had those for the teddy bear, so for the length we are going to input 100 centimeters, for the width 100 centimeters, and the same for the height. We can already see here that the system has calculated a volumetric weight of 200 kilos. If we now enter the unit weight, so that's the combined weight of the teddy bear, the box, the packaging and the filler material, which was 8 kilos, we can see that the chargeable weight has been determined to be 200 kilos, i.e. the greater of the gross weight and the volumetric weight. However, if, for example, the weight of the teddy bear with the box had been, let's say, 230 kilos, you can see that the chargeable weight has been amended to once again select the higher of the two weights. The calculation for sea freight chargeable weight is slightly different from road and air freight, meaning when it comes to goods transported by sea, there is a division between the heavy goods and light goods, and the carrier charges based on it. Coming back to our example. Now, since the highest of the two between the volumetric weight 200 kilos and gross weight 8 kilos is the volumetric weight, that is what will apply to rate the shipping of this teddy bear. Global trade uses this method of rating to create a more fair shipping charge. Using the greater of gross weight or volumetric weight as the chargeable weight ensures the carrier receives a fair price for the space or weight contribution to the carrying capacity of the asset that is being used. Understanding volume weight will empower you to accurately calculate your shipping costs and probably also influence how you design the packaging of your products in the first place. Depending on the commodity shipped, the difference between the actual weight, gross weight, and the chargeable weight could be 2 to 3 times different. So this is not negligible. Now that we have covered the theory, let's dive into the system to see how this chargeable weight concept calculation can be set up. First, we'll cover what is available in configuration, namely the setup of a dimensional weight profile. Then we'll amend an existing freight agreement where we are going to add a chargeable weight rate, and then finish off by seeing how this agreement and rate comparison works in a freight order. So let's go into the system. Now, before we delve into the system and look at how we can set up a chargeable weight within the context of the freight order charge calculation, let's have a quick look at the SSC UI that is available within the context of this process. This SSC UI is called a dimensional weight profile, and you will find it within the application area supply chain, transportation management, and then within transportation charge management, you have here the option to define a dimensional weight profile. As part of the standard content, there is already some entries that have been defined for you, but you absolutely have free rein in determining or creating your own if you so wish. Just remember that the calculation base has to be gross volume, because it's on the basis of the gross volume that the volumetric weight is going to be determined, but you absolutely have free rein to indicate the desired dimensional weight factor, the volume unit of measure, as well as the weight unit of measure that should be used depending on whether you are looking at the imperial or SI measuring system. Alright, so to verify the setup of a chargeable weight charge type in basic TM, what we will do is we will use an existing freight agreement to which we are going to add a new charge type that we will define as a chargeable weight basis, and then we'll go to verify the information that we put in that freight agreement in a freight order and verify that the charge calculation works as we want it to. So let's go into a freight agreement that I already have, and for which I have already defined a couple of charges, both basic rate, but one is using the gross weight of the product and the other one is using the volumetric weight of the product. So that will then also help us when we add this new chargeable weight type in the freight agreement, and we use that in our freight order to have all of the information that we need. We'll see what the charge would have been on the basis of the gross weight, what the charge would have been on the basis of the volumetric weight, and then this new charge that we are going to add, which is going to be the chargeable weight. We'll see which of the two has won it in the freight order. So I'm going to flip my freight agreement into edit mode so I can change it. I will go to my calculation sheet, and in my calculation sheet I'm going to add a new charge type, which again is going to be of type SF04. I could of course have defined my own custom charge type, but I did not do it. So in the basic data, what I want to do is I'm going to add a calculation resolution base of product. In terms of rate, I'm also going to be leveraging a rate table. So for that, with my charge type selected, I'm going to say add local rate table, and then I'm going to define that rate table within the context of my freight agreement. Now I should also say that if I should have been smarter about this and defined a global rate table, seeing as I'm using the same rate table across all of my 3 charge types, but that will also then by defining it locally help us to see what that rate table is going to look like. So let's go to display rate table, and the first thing that I need to do here is define the scale. So I'm going to insert scale, and in the calculation base, this is where I'm looking for the entry of charge weight, chargeable weight, which is this one right here. Now the chargeable, or the scale that I've defined here, is in effect going to dictate the how I structure my rates in my rate table. So as I've indicated this scale entry and this calculation base, the first thing the system asks me is for a scale type. And am I going to enter a rate for a base scale, so greater or equal to the value that I will have in my rate table? Is it going to be a 2 scale or a same scale? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick 2 scale, and the unit of measure that I will follow for my chargeable weight is going to be kilograms. So now that I've entered that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define the values that make up my rate table. And I'm going to use exactly the same weight bands and rates as those that I've had already defined in my gross weight and volumetric weight charge types, which are the other 2 lines in my agreement. So I'm going to say that if the weight is between 0 and 50, the rate is going to be 1.1. If it's 100, it's going to be 1.05. If it's between 100 and 500, it's going to be 1.0. And then the last one, which is going to be if it's between 500 and 1,000, the rate should be 0.90. So I've got a the more cargo I'm asking my carrier to transport, the cheaper it's going to be. Now, also, I've indicated various weight bands and different rates. So I need to tell the system this rate here of $1.1, what does that relate to? Is that per kilo? Is that per 10 kilo? Per 50 kilo? So to do that, we go to the calculation rules. And once again, I'm going to insert my calculation base of chargeable weight. And I'm going to say that the prices that I've indicated are for 1 kilo. Okay, so I've completely defined my rate table. Before I go out of this screen, what I need to do is I need to release my rate table. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back again to go to the header of my freight agreement. We can see the rate table that I've just defined has not yet been saved. So I'm going to say save, and it will get a definitive number. Here we go, 99023. Okay, so let me just get out of my freight agreement. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into a freight order, and I've already got a freight order that's ready to go. So I've created the sales order, the freight unit has been generated, I've planned it onto a freight order. What's important here for what we are trying to look at is the weight, the gross weight, as well as the volume. And we can see that the gross weight of the cargo is 160 kilos, and the volume that is occupied by my cargo is 1 cubic meter. So I'm going to flip my freight order into edit mode. I'm going to enter my carrier, my purchasing organization, as well as my purchasing group, and I need that information for the system to even trigger the search for a valid agreement in my freight order. So I've entered this information, the calculation charge has been completed, so I can go to the charges tab to verify what charges the system has determined. So let's open up this little box here, and what we can see is that we have the basic, so these are the first 2 lines that I had created in my freight agreement, and this line was purely based on the gross weight. The second line is based on the volumetric weight, and then we have this third line, which is the chargeable weight. As I said, these 2 lines here were indicated so that we could verify that the chargeable weight was correctly picking up the greater of the gross weight charge or the volumetric weight charge. So what we can do here within the freight order is for each charge hide the details, and that will give us a little bit more information. And in particular, what we can obviously see here, which we already have here, is that the calculated amount has been $200. And if we go to the calculation rules, we'll see why it picked this. So the data source value was determined to be 200 kilos. We had the volume of 1 cubic meter, and we then also leveraged the dimensional weight factor of 5,000 cubic meters per kilo, which we had also defined in the header of the agreement. So 1 cubic meter equals 200 kilos. The system looked at the scale value of 500 kilos in the rate table to determine the rate, which was $1. So there you go. The chargeable weight has been correctly determined to be the higher of the gross weight or volumetric weight of the cargo that we are wanting to transport. So there we go. As usual, I hope this recording was instructive and insightful, and you can now easily set up a freight transportation rate where the chargeable weight will apply. I would also be remiss if I did not mention my colleagues Matthias K and Amita G for pointing me in the right direction to get this working. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like or comment and subscribe to help us continue providing free content via this channel. Until next time, stay safe.